everyone. My name is Umar Farouk, and in this presentation, we'll be looking at medical lab simulation using Simpy. So the problem is that a medical lab is a facility that runs 24/7, thus demands for the workforce to be present all the time. And the problem arises when the higher management does not take that seriously when we are short-staffed. So this particular simulation is designed to answer the questions. Answer the following two questions. First is to check the response of the model with different resources. The resources over here is the staff that we have, and how much does a pre-existing labeling and ordering issue affect the overall process. So the whole simulation will try to answer these two questions, which are very important. Those who works in the lab would know the importance of these questions. Now, the significance of this problem is that, like, medical lab is a facility that is one of those two facilities actually that takes care of all the patients at the same time that are present in the hospital. So we take care of departments like emergency room, medical intensive care unit, surgical intensive care unit, pediatric ED, etc. And they're all very dependent on the lab results because the doctor won't be able to treat the patient properly until they get the lab results. So every unit on the floor is actually connected to lab, and lab has a huge volume of specimens to process, and it requires manpower. So with not enough manpower, we can have a lot of downtime, and our turnaround time is not going to be according to the standards of a lab. So that's why, to address this issue once and for all, I actually designed this model to check out. All right, so this is the overall pre-analytical phase flowchart. We're not going to do the analytics because analytics usually does not take that much time. Once the specimen is ready and we can actually put it on the machine, it takes like 10 minutes to result. But you have to prepare the specimen for the machine first. So this is the overall process, the pre-analytical phase. As you can see that it starts with a question right away that whether either it was hand delivered or no. If it's not hand delivered, it comes through tube delivery system. If it's hand delivered, so usually walked down by a nurse or a PA or someone like that. Even sometimes the doctors walk it down. So this one usually does not have any problem. The one that are hand delivered does not have any problem and goes through the system very quickly. The other ones that are being queued to the lab usually has some kind of issues like an order or ordering issues or labeling issues, and some of them are properly labeled, so that one process get processed quickly and goes through all the activities, all the way to where the analytics are carried out, which is our sync. There, in this case, we have two syncs. One is a send out track, and the other one is just leaving it to the respective departments, for the testings. So this is our overall pre-analytical phase flowchart. Now, the way our simulation and iteration work was that, like, I've created two generator functions, each for each for a specimen that we're getting. If it's a tube delivery system specimens, so I have a tube generator function for that. If it's walked down to the lab, I have a generator nurse function for that. And then we have each generator has another own generator activity function. And the data from that is actually being verified and validated and gathered and actually put into results and discussion for our question that we needed to answer. All right. So over here, we're going to quickly jump into our simulation code so that we can look at our generators functions for the activity and the generation of specimens. All right. So this is our code. I'll share the link with the presentation. So this is our flow diagram. These are the simulations. So obviously we have to set our environment first. After setting the environment, it is strictly followed by two generator functions. One is specimen generator tube system, and the other one is specimen generator nurse, just for the sake of simplicity. So over here, one thing is pretty clear and obvious that we're not looking at the number of specimens, we're looking at the tubes and the walk downs. So I mean, since every tube has different number of patients and different number of specimens in it, so I've kind of gathered the average data and then worked on that to just kind of calculate the time of the tube that is being processed. Because tube has specimens, so it indirectly translates for that. All right, so this generator function utilizes another generator function that is for the activity or processing of this tube system. Tube delivered specimens. And similarly, in the nurse, there's another activity function. Again, there is another generator function, which covers all the activities or processes that has to be carried out to the specimens. So after that, we have the two activity generator function or two processing generator functions. This one is for the tube. So these are all the activities that are being carried out to the specimens to the drop off, all the way to drop off. Similarly, it is followed by another function that actually covers all the processes or activities carried out to the specimen that are being walked down by the nurse. So I'll share the link for the code, and you can go and take a deep dive in to the code and check it out. So after that, after creating this, I've gathered some data uh, for verification and validation. So the way I've verified this model, if it's working the way it was supposed to be, is that I've gathered some information. Let's say I have, as we saw in a flow chart, that we have some specimen with ordering issues. So I've set that to 20%. Like, let's say 20% of the specimen that we are getting has up to 20%, not exactly 20%, but up to 20% of the specimen. It could be somewhere between like 0 to 20%, you know. So it has to be less than 20% with specimens with or tubes with ordering issues. And when I did some math, I found out that there was like 18.37% of the tube that has ordering issues, which kind of verified our model that yeah, it is doing what we want to do. Similarly, validation is a bit hard since I know all the steps of the process and I know the exact times. I've been working there for like over 2 years, so I was familiar with it, but someone who is not needs some facts and figures to validate the model. So so I did gather some data for that using my colleagues. I would ask them, I would request them to gather the data while they're receiving specimens. So so I did validation through two features or through two I would say variables. I would say so. The first one was to count the overall number of cubes. So on average, we used to get like 219. Sometimes it would be 230. Sometimes it would be 210 tubes on average for 480 minutes, which roughly comes up to be 54-55 tubes per 120 minutes. Because I'm running the simulation for 120 minutes, I don't want it to be too heavy on computers, so that's why I just ran it for 120 minutes. Since I'm doing 100 runs after that, just to get a mean of everything, to avoid a lot of variance in the data. So similarly, and I looked at the overall processing time with no issues. And um, upon doing some manual calculation, it was approximately 13 and a half minutes, but I just rounded off to 13 minutes. And the time that I've calculated for my simulation was like 15, so which is not bad, like a minute or two over. Which it's not bad. It kind of validates our model, considering that I'm doing a lot of assumptions, So after doing, sorry about that, after doing the validation and verification, we actually checked out the answers for our question by utilizing the data from this simulation. So on the left side, our first question was like to check the response of model with different resources. So the easy way to check the response is that just to check the waiting time on nurse and the waiting time or tube unattended in the station. So with three MLAs, MLAs stand for a medical lab assistant, which is our resource in this case. So if we have three MLAs, look at the mean time for the nurse, the mean wait time for the nurse, and then look at this. It's more than double, I would say. It's like 7.5 and it's more than 15. So it's like twice the time she have to wait if we have 3 people instead of 4 people. And similarly with tube delivery system, the tube stays unattended for more than 17.5 minutes with a confidence interval of 95. So, here's our first answer. We do need 4 people every night. Since there was this process was carried out for the night shift, every data um, has been actually validated with the night shift. So, and again, the second question was how much does a pre-existing issue affect the overall process? So over here, this is specimen with no issues, which takes roughly about 24 minutes if we are 3 people working, not 4. For 4, it's like 15 minutes. And a specimen with ordering and labeling issues has, sorry about that, it should have been labeling issue, but again, it's up to be like 2 minutes over the actual processing time. But there's another side to it. This code was actually designed uh, task based. Like let's say if a MLA or a resource is being taken by a task, it cannot multitask. It would have to complete that task in order to move to another task. So usually labeling and ordering issues has more time, but it adds up to the no processing issue time too. Because if MLA is not available, uh, the specimen stays unattended for a very longer period since they are fixing ordering and labeling issues. And the reason why I've done that is that to kind of mimic the lab process, because the way lab works is that it demands the MLAs to work on one task at one time so that we don't mix up the specimens for different patients. It could endanger patients' lives. And this is the distribution of specimens with labeling, ordering issues, and no issues at all. So again, you would see some 45 minutes over here, mainly because of these two. Because if our MLA is busy in fixing this one, it automatically adds over here too. So that was the only thing that was actually bothering me during this whole project. But then when I think on it logically, I was like, okay, this thing is actually adding up over here too. I could not fix it. I should have really fixed it, but I was like, let me just explain it during my presentation. All right, the conclusion is that like pretty simple. We need 4 people instead of 3 every night if you want a good processing time. And again, if we can avoid the labeling and ordering issues and we get the ready specimens, we can really speed up the overall process. All right, and there was some limitation. Like I said, I've been discussing that during the overall presentation. Um, the first limitation was like there is no stat situation that was encountered in this whole code. The code was set strictly on task based. It has to complete this task and then have to move to the other one. There was no multitasking. So that's one of the limitations I would say. But again, this limitation actually falls right according to what lab demands. Because lab would never tell you to do 2 things at one time. You can easily mess up both. And due to lack of availability of data, the distribution was just taken exponentially because the best that I could do was to find out the actual averages, and I used that with exponential distribution for everything, which is a limitation to this project. The send out after pre-processing was not included since the model was yeah. So there was if you could go back to um, the the flow chart, this step was actually not included since it's like one tube out of 100 and it requires a lot of not a lot but it requires code and complicates the overall process, so I just kind of neglected that and I did run the simulation without this. After this we have another limitation that tubes and nurses were used as an alternative for specimens. Each tube or nurse comes out with different number of specimens, so they were like that's why we use exponential distribution for the processing time with averages. um, that is, this could be considered as another limitation in this project. Um, Again, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have any questions, to, please do reach out to me. I can always help you out. If you have a problem understanding the code, because it's a bit complicated, there's a lot of if and else statements with nested if and else statements. So you can easily get lost in it. I got lost in it so many times. So if you have any questions, please do reach out to me and feel free to ask any kind of questions. Thank you.